Good afternoon, parents.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Tabitha Thigpen. I'm the magnet coordinator for King Drew Magnet High School of Medicine and Science, and we wanted to host a special parent orientation for our new families for the class of 2024. So I would like to introduce our amazing panel. First and foremost is our principal, Mr. Reginald Brookins. We have our parent, Mr. Crook, who has two students, 9th and 11th graders. We have Ms. Fraga, who also has a 10th and 11th grade student currently at our school, and Mr. Vasquez, who has two new 9th grade students at King Drew. So today we're going to start up our panel here to prepare you and welcome you and kind of give you a heads up of what to expect in high school. So Mr. Brookins, would you like to start, please?
Yes. First of all, thank you, parents, for viewing this. And, we have to do business a little bit differently now. So this is going to be basically what you would have seen if you were live at our new student orientation. And so I would like to begin by having our parents introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about their students at King Drew. And, our purpose for doing this is we have a legacy of success in our room right now. And so I want to start Ms. Fraga.
My name is Maria Fraga, and I started being part of the King Drew family back in 2001 when my oldest daughter entered. I have two current students, a 10th and 11th grader. My oldest daughter graduated from Berkeley. She has a PhD, and I have also a social worker and so on. Thank you to King Drew. King Drew has opened the doors for all of my girls, and they have become successful. Thank you to the family that King Drew has been part of. As you know, it takes more than one person to help these children succeed, and King Drew helped me do that throughout the years.
Mr. Vasquez, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your students?
Sure. Hi, my name is Carlos Vasquez, and I have two boys in 9th grade. I did a lot of research before I signed up my boys to a high school, and what I found out is that King Drew is it's a pretty good school, actually. Pretty good ratings. I read a lot about it. One thing that is particular about my case, one of my boys, he's a Spanish speaker. He's a newcomer. Never spoke a word of English, and he started on 9th grade. And I kid you not, a month or 2 months after he started, he was just very fluent. And now it's been just right about a year, and he can do essays in English. He can just be part of any other class. So I'm thankful for all the support that King Drew has provided to, especially to my new this newcomer boy.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. Mr. Crook, tell us a little about you and your students.
I have two sons, 9th grader and 11th grader. We came to King Drew when my son graduated 8th grade, 2017. He's always aspired to go in the medical field. My wife's an RN, my mother-in-law's an RN. Just so funny about my mother-in-law, she actually went to the first nursing school that Florence Nightingale founded in England. So medicine has always been in the blood. And so I knew about King Drew because I worked down the street from it. And I just knew that this was the spot for my children to further their education.
And a little bit about myself. This is ending my 5th year as principal at King Drew. And so I'm not only the principal at King Drew, I'm also a parent at King Drew. My son is a current 11th grader at the school. And as I was searching for high schools for him, I hadn't thought about him coming to King Drew before I became the principal, even though I knew what King Drew was. As I was looking for schools and say, okay, well, maybe I'll send him to a private school, or maybe I'll send him somewhere else. And living and breathing at King Drew made me realize that why would I send him anywhere else than here? And so there is, of course, some pressure attached to being a principal's son at school, but he's thrived. And so when we deal with your students, and me personally, I'm treating them as if they're my own, because my own is also a member of the population here.
Thank you. Those were all great introductions and good insight into why your students are at King Drew and how they're doing. I wanted to talk to you about sometimes the most important thing is, how do you know how your students are doing at school? What are your options, and how do you keep up with these young people that are really, they are physically adult looking and like, but they still need the help and the support of their parent throughout this whole process? What are you aware of? What tools are you aware of that can help parents navigate that? My question will start with Ms. Fraga.
At my home, we have 5 rules. And one of them is to keep in touch with the teachers through Schoology. You always want to be part of your child's education at all times, especially when you have teenagers. That's the time that you really got to embrace your kids and help them out and have that open communication. So I constantly will send a message to the teachers maybe twice a week just to check up. I'll talk to the counselors. I even send messages to Ms. Thigpen. Hey, Ms. Thigpen, any updates, any news? So keeping informed through Schoology at all times of where your children are standing at, and asking the questions. And Schoology is a very good tool that King Drew offers for parents to be aware of whether your child's turning in homework, if they have absences, if they are on point. So that to me has been one of the most successful tools that I've used at King Drew.
Mr. Crook.
Oh, yeah, Schoology, I will have to also piggyback also is also a great tool to use that helps the parent monitor your own children. I mean, as we always need to do anyway, but Schoology is a tool there that helps you do it. And then now with the current days of being at home, hey, that old fashioned call the parent up and let them know what the child is doing is also been very effective too now in these new times. Because my children are at home, they know their work assignments, but how am I going to guarantee you that when I ask them if they're doing their homework, because I actually got to sit down and do my homework too, because I'm in the master's program. So when I'm doing my homework, they're doing their homework, and I ask them, they say, yeah, I'm not going to really check it. I'm going to believe them. But then once that school call and say, hey, you're missing an assignment, that's another tool right there that can help the parent stay abreast of what the child is doing.
Excellent. I'm sorry I was on mute before. Mr. Vasquez.
Yeah, I tend to talk a lot. So if I get carried over, just please, I won't be offended if you tell me, okay, let's relax. You only have 3 minutes. So I'm glad to hear Ms. Is it Fraga? Yes, Fraga, that she emails the teachers, because I became very self-conscious after I learned to navigate Schoology. My kids kind of hate it at first because I knew everything at my fingertips. And I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but I can walk into King Drew and I can tell you every teacher that teaches any of my 2 boys, they know me by name. And I don't know if that is a good or bad thing.
That is an excellent thing. I will interrupt. That is excellent. I'm over here applauding.
That's a great thing.
Again, for me, it's a good thing, and I can see how that can be a little bit annoying. I don't email, often, but I would say, especially with one of my boys says third consecutive day, no homework. And I'm like, great, but I'm going to send an email to Mr. Jackson. If you're Spanish, there's no homework. And he's like, oh, wait, I forgot. So, I tell my kids, If you think I'm tough on you, wait until you have a job where your paycheck depends on finish your assignment or doing a research, and you lose your job over that. It's nothing compared to what I'm putting you through. It's like nothing. The second rule, just like Ms. Fraga says, I give my kids cell phones, but I call their cell phones anywhere from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And their phone better not ring. It better not ring. And if it rings, they know um, the first time I take it a week, second time I take it 2 weeks, the third time I take it up to a month. And I kid you not, I take their cell phones away. And I mean, they cry like, how am I gonna live without a cell phone? Well, I told you, your cell phone better not ring. And I do call them throughout. You know, I don't tell them the time, but I do. And you know, there's several rules, but some of the important rules is that, and one more is at you know, at 3 p.m., 3:45 or so, I'm the last person they need to call and say, Dad, I'm home. And after that, they put their cell phones on the dining table. Their cell phones are off, and they're not to be turned on until the next morning at 7 a.m. On the weekends, I don't give them their cell phone. And you know, I just I'm very tough when it comes to their electronics. You know, at 9 p.m., I have a device that is attached to my Wi-Fi. At 9 p.m., there is no Wi-Fi at home. I don't care who you are. I'm the only one that has Wi-Fi 24/7, but and my wife. But if you're under the age of 18, you do not get Wi-Fi after 9 p.m. and you're supposed to go to bed, brush your teeth. So and some one of the reasons why I'm pretty tough with my boys. If you guys have boys, they're a little tougher than girls. I think I have two other girls, and so you know, they're not the best students. I can tell you right now, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, but I do help them thrive, and I can tell you that they're doing better than last year. Now that I got hooked on Schoology, I kid you not, I memorize their homework. I memorize what they need to do, and nothing flies. Every day before we all go to sleep, we check Schoology, and I better not see anything missing, and only B's and A's are allowed. C's are not allowed, D's are not allowed, and F's means I need to take you to school, you need to find a job, you're not welcome in my house. You know, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but at least they know it's my expectation, you know.
Well, then
I
I
do
guess
spoil them, but
there should be
that's
no
kind of like my
surprise.
approach.
It should be no surprise then why your student is made so much progress because there are lots of routines that I hear from what you're talking about, and mainly it's staying in touch with the school, which you all have.
Oh yeah.
I wanted Mr.
I mean, Miss, yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I wanted Mr. Brookins to kind of touch on kind of the difficulty of that. You mentioned your son being a student here, right? You're the principal of the school. You are ensuring the success of all of your students, but how is that possible when it's your son? What strategies does your family use to make that more effective?
Well, you know, the tools that exist within Schoology, you know, I try not to be on top of him while he's at school. I don't go into his classrooms. I let my wife deal with those things. And so we get these Schoology alerts, and you can get them weekly, and every Friday that Schoology alert comes in. Okay, well, what's going on with this? Why is that missing? And I'll give credit to her. She's on top of him and my other son on all of those things. So, you know, I try not to hover over him because I know about the pressures of being the principal's son at school. So, but one thing about the tool that is the electronic roll book, which is Schoology, that's a tool that you have no excuse to say you didn't know. You know before a report card comes what their grades are. You don't have to wait 5 weeks, 10 weeks, 15 weeks. Now, I don't suggest checking Schoology every day. because there are some times where, you know, teachers put in assignments at different times, and, you know, but it removes the excuse that you didn't know what was going on. And
It's
so
definitely to check.
and it's definitely something that you check. And that's one thing that it does. And I want you, all parents that are having a high schooler now that's coming, is that this is not the time to let up, right? You think they're older, you think they're bigger, you think they don't need you as much. They need you as much now as they did when they were in kindergarten,
If
right?
not more.
So you're going to, my recommendation is to micromanage them until they prove to you that they don't need it anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll know when that time comes.
Thank you. And again, one of the things that I heard from everyone's answer is this kind of establishing routines, right? Getting them in good habits and good practices. And I know Mr. Vasquez spoke about electronics and social media, but I want us to touch more on that in terms of the actual routines that you establish for your students, as well as your expectation for their social media posting or their access to electronics in general. So Mr. Vasquez answered it thoroughly. He has set rules. I'm sending my kid to go live with them because she needs she needs that. But I would like to hear from Mr. Crook as well. What do you do with your sons? How do you navigate that?
Definitely, Mr. Vasquez. Hey, I might have to start, you know, sharpening up the belt at the house, because, you know, he showed me he's a little bit more stern than I am. And I look at myself. I'm a big guy, so I talk to my boys. I don't have a problem with social media. Social media is a tool that's like any other tool. It can be used for good or for bad. But if you teach your kids to use it for the good, you can take it for what it's worth. My kids do use their phone for research, homework, and things of that nature. Also, my kids have MacBooks, and so technology is readily at their hand. Their phone is their hotspot, so they can be at school anytime, touch in. But it is I say a parental guidance disclaimer I'm gonna throw out there. You have to be a part of what your kids are doing and what your kids are posting. I have my kids on Life 360, so I could tell where they're at when they're walking home or transporting from home to where, so I can know where they're at all times. The actual being a friend on their social media
Yes.
kind of deters them from posting derogatory things. Because if you know of your parents on your Facebook or your IG or, you know, your Snapchat, you're going to refrain from posting vulgarity and things that you're not supposed to be able to post. And then by being a parent, you can actually monitor that. Hey, I can see, what are you doing posting at 1:25 in the morning? You know, I can check that because, you know, I can look at my feed as well. But I think each parent has to judge their own children and see, are they mature enough for it? Because technology is here, and now after the situation happened, it's going to be here even more readily in our face. So you have to have that type of responsibility instilled into your children.
Great point. Miss Fraga, for you and your lovely two girls, how are the challenges? How do you handle them?
I agree with Mr. Vasquez as well as Mr. Crook. I do have the dinner time, family time is no cell phones, you put it up. However, I do follow them on their social media as well. You know, I'm joined with them in Instagram. They don't have a Facebook yet, so that's a good thing. But anything else, I follow them because, like Mr. Crook said, it's really important to be aware of what's going on. It might not be them, but it might be somebody else posting things that are not called for. So you want to make sure that you know both sides of the story. The other thing is that they've had a lot of assignments as groups. So I know they have to, you know, maybe text that person in the group that hasn't turned in the assignment or needs more information. So we have to be a little bit flexible, but at the same time, keep an eye on them and monitor. So I let my girls, sometimes it'll be, you know, maybe 9, 10 o'clock and somebody will text like, hey, Andrea, or hey, Valerie, I missed this. Can you send me the information? But at the same time, I'll ask them, hey, it's a little bit past 8:30 or it's past 9 o'clock. So they'll show me the message and then I'm like, okay, go ahead and take a picture or send it to them, because there are students that are absent, or, you know, they went on a field trip or whatever. So they do need that support. But yes, I do have limitations on them, but I'm always constantly monitoring those phones.
Excellent. And Mr. Brookins, they can just call anytime they want.
No. And what I want our parents to know is, King Drew, we do have a no cell phone policy during the school day, right? And so Mr. Vasquez's point of calling to check to see if that phone is on during the day, there's no reason for them to have their phone on at school, because they can't use it at school. We do confiscate phones at school. And so that's not something that should be on in the classroom. If there's an emergency and the parent needs to reach a student, or the student needs to reach a parent, all of us grew up without phones, right? And so what do? We went to the office. There's a way to get in contact. So for the student can't tell you that they need a phone at school during the school day. But also all of our students have Chromebooks, right? And so we are a one-to-one device school, and they all have a computer, and teaching them how to manage that. I agree with Mr. Crook, and what our students need to know is that you are building your digital footprint, right? And so whatever you post, whatever you say online, you think it goes away, it doesn't. It's attached to you. Students can lose college admissions because of their social media page. Mm-hmm. And people lose their jobs because of things that they post. And so it is a tool, but any tool can be used in the right way or the wrong way. And I think it's important that, we show them the right way to use the tool, right? That it is something that you can gain access and get information from, but you have to know what you're doing. And the best way for us parents to do is to monitor, right? I'm friends with my son on Instagram, because the only reason I have Instagram is so I can see what he posts.
Yep.
Right? I don't post anything, right? I just look, right? And so and remember, parents, the cell phone is yours. It's not theirs. They didn't buy it. You bought that, right? And so it looks like we may have lost Mr.
I'll add him back when he comes.
He comes back. There he is. So parents, that phone is not theirs. That phone is yours, right? And so you control it. You can take it. You can give it. You control all access to it. And so you probably wouldn't be amazed, but we have a lot of incidents over the phone, right? And so that's why the phone is a tool that needs to be taught how to use, and not just free reign.
And muted during the school day. So back to the school day and what to expect, right? Outside of just the classes and instruction, we want to talk about studying and homework habits. Something to think about for the fall. The fact that we're definitely starting school August 18th, but we're unsure whether or not we will be in the building or whether it will be distance learning. So we want to kind of broach that with our new parents, because we won't necessarily meet you before then, but we do want to talk to you about what we have prepared as a school, as a staff, and what we're looking to create for the fall semester. But I wanted the parents to be able to kind of talk about their experiences currently with this transition that we all got to go through together, and some of the difficulties or challenges or things just to kind of look ahead for. Can we start with Mr. Crook?
Well, about what lies ahead about the challenges. My oldest will be a 12th grader. I mean, he's excited. I mean, I don't have a problem with him. My 9th grader, that's a 10th grader, and he's missing the social part of school.
Yes.
That's what a lot of our kids are going to be really deprived from, is how do you get along with other students? How do you come to a compromise when you're working in groups, when you're physically with the person? He has a little anxiety about that, but I'm like telling him, it'll be all right. I'm confident when school starts back, it'll be some form of what we're used to, but also a new form of what's new. But as long as it's in the best to protect the children as well as the staff and the teachers, I'm all for it.
How are you handling distance learning at home right now?
Yes.
With me, it's pretty good. Like I said, my oldest, he's already attentive. I mean, his maturity level is way up there, so he's fine. Now my ninth grader, we're still pushing and pulling, trying to keep him set on a set schedule. It's kind of rough when I myself have to still come to work. Fortunately, my wife works at home now, but once again, she's still working. So it's not like as a parent, you can just got full time to deal with your child's needs. But just like regular, by the time we get home, 5:36, any work or anything that you need to help with, then we'll always jump in with that, because I'm always at the table doing work. So they already know, my table is the talk table. So come on now, let's talk education at this table.
And then for you, Mr. Vasquez, how are your students adjusting?
I think there's some good and not so good things about the distance learning. So the good thing is I work from home, and so I have them next to me, 24/7. It gives me the ability to check on their work, and I am able to see their habits that need to be tightened up a little bit, and I can pick on that very, very quickly now that they're working from home. I think the not so good thing is they don't have the structure, like the scheduling, like 8 o'clock to 8:20 you have breakfast, 8:20 to that, and at that point you go to recess and you take a break. And so that was a challenge for me because I thought, well, wait a minute, if I can work 10 hours, you can work 10 hours with a 25-minute break. But it doesn't work for them. For them, it was a big change. For them, their body was still adjusting to, wait a minute, it's 9:30 and we're supposed to have milk. And I'm like, what? So, little by little, I started learning their, their routine. And so by now we all know the routine, so,
Yes.
but I think there's more advantages working remotely. It's for me, it gave me the chance again to learn more about my children at a more one-on-one level, and it gave me the ability to find their weakness, their blind spot, and more importantly, to know their strengths and what they do, what they're better at. And so, it wasn't so much a big change for us. I think we were able to adjust fairly quickly. I would say, after a week, we were, oh yeah, there's the homework and we need to go on to Schoology. And so I think for us, I have 4 kids total, and it was okay after a week, I would say.
Well, that is wonderful. That is really good to hear. Ms. Fraga, how about you and your 2 daughters?
Well, as a teacher, I'm working from home as well. And it was a little bit of a challenge at the beginning for the simple fact that I had to do my Zoom conferences, and then both of them, overlapped with their Zoom conferences, and the Wi-Fi would give out or it would crash. And they started getting frustrated, like, oh my God, Mom, what do I do now? They're going to think that I didn't want to be part of it. So it started off as a little bit of a challenge. But again, I had to keep in place the 5 rules. One, which is keep an open communication with them. We had to constantly, talk. What do you have due? Which is the second one. Monitor their agenda and their deadlines. What do you have due? What's coming up? Sometimes I would even eavesdrop in some of those Zoom conferences with the teachers, and I would hear how engaged they were. And, you get to learn a little bit more of that environment in the classroom. I also, like I said earlier, I keep in touch with the teachers. What else can I do to support my child? This is what happened, or they don't understand, and be involved. So I'm constantly being involved in it. One of the biggest challenges also is it's not like in the classroom, if a student doesn't understand something right away, the teacher can reteach it or explain it or give that extra support. So what we had to learn to do is constantly go on Khan Academy. I didn't know this part, and especially the one that was taking the AP classes. Okay, let's go on Khan Academy. So it was both her and me going on it in case she wouldn't get it. I would kind of refresh my mind and help her out with those steps. So those were some of the challenges, the internet problem when you had the whole state of California at the same time trying to get on something, on a platform, or all of LAUSD getting on Google Classroom at the same time. And also the extra support, even though they could email the teachers and get that extra help, sometimes it had to be immediate help that they needed. And it's not the same as if they were in the classroom. Yeah, so those were a little bit of two of our challenges that we had.
Thank you. Mr. Brookins, how's it at your house?
Well, first, we all hope that soon we'll get back to normal, right? And we know that there's no substitute. We can't substitute for physically being in the presence. And, me and my job, what I miss most about my job is the kids and being able to talk to the kids and talk to the people. But, one thing that we do here is there's still a routine. There's still a certain time of the day, if you're still not on the Zoom or whatever, you're still doing your work, right? And once your work, and we even factor in physical education, and then you factor in those different pieces. You got to get some exercise, or you have to, and don't let that end of the week Schoology report come back that something is missing. Because if there is, then there's a consequence. There's some privilege that you're going to lose if there's something missing, right? Or you better have a really, really, really good explanation. And so that happened a little bit after the first week or two. Because, they're sleeping in a little later now. It's the body clock has changed where they don't get up at 6 a.m. anymore, right? Which I understand, and we don't push too hard, but you have to still show that you've done everything. Right. And it can't be any notifications that you haven't.
Well, I want to make sure too that you talk about, we created a special schedule for distance learning on purpose.
Yes.
Because in-seat learning is not the same. You cannot expect students to sit, or teachers to sit in front of a computer from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. having class.
Right.
That is not conducive for their learning either.
No. And like Mr. Vasquez mentioned, he's working at home and he has that stamina to do that. But, a kid sitting in front of a computer all day is not necessarily a good thing, right? And so we did create a special schedule to where it's unrealistic for them to 1 hour this class, 1 hour that class, and then basically 6 straight hours in front of a Zoom or in front of a computer. So we switched the schedule up to make it more conducive to being at home, and they have opportunities to reach out to the teachers during office hours, but they also have scheduled class times. And, like I said, we hope this doesn't last too much longer, but the reality is it could open like this in the fall, right? And so you have to have your routines at home, just like we have routines and bells ringing at school.
Can I add something else?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There was something that I noticed that it was actually very good that came out of this distance learning, and it was the fact that they became less autonomous. I'm sorry, they became more autonomous.
Right.
More autonomous. I meant to say more autonomous. So, for example, they have to read a story about something from biology. It's a new term. So they had to, look up certain terms, and they had to self-taught and learn new things on their own. And it wasn't as before where, okay, I didn't get it, I guess I'm going to ask my teacher tomorrow. So now it's like, well, you either swim or sink. You have to learn it to finish your homework, or you're just not going to do it and get an F. So I saw a lot of the becoming very autonomous, and maybe, it might be something that some of the teachers might want to try, just on the side, not on the side, but a part of the homework, give them much rigid homework where kids have to do a little bit of, learning on their own or self-taught. Perfect example is math. The teacher just gave them YouTube videos, and they have to reason their math problems. And so that was something, in my opinion, it was pretty good out of this distance learning.
I think that's a great point. Some of the things that have come from distance learning actually will benefit and will have our students better equipped and prepared for college. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of wrap up a little bit with this last question for all of you, to think about what tips, what kinds of things would you leave our incoming parents with in terms of how to build success for their students, or remembering back to your year of freshman year for your students, what you wished you had known before starting or embarking on that freshman year. Who would like to answer that?
I can share my. Oh, go for it, Mr. Crook. Go for it, Mr. Crook.
That to me be a little challenging from when I was in ninth grade many decades ago. Parents were different. Our parents was more working. Now I've kind of changed myself into one of the parents who more try to volunteer a little bit more at the school to let the kids know that I'm a little bit involved with the principal too, because I could text Mr. Brookins, he could text me instantly. So that kind of can benefit the child and the parent, to know that it's a good relationship between administration and the parent. So I would definitely advise all parents to reach out to the students' teachers, to the faculty, become friends with the counselor, get on a first name basis. So we become more friends, and then now that friends will turn into family, then that'll make your whole 4 years here a little bit more enjoyable.
Thank you. Ms. Fraga, you have any tips for our students?
I would just recommend all incoming parents to keep an open communication with their students. Whether it's good or bad, let them know that you are there to hear them and to support them. Give your child a quiet workspace to work. Monitor their agendas and their deadlines. Keep in touch with the teachers at all times or the staff. And finally, be involved, whether it's coffee with the principal, or it's a parent workshop, or it's a Saturday class, whatever it is, be involved with your child's school. And that will definitely help your child become successful.
And Mr. Vasquez.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Fraga and Mr. Crook. Being involved it's key. It's as I have some friends that they tell their children, not at Kindred, but in different schools, oh, the teacher did this to you? Was she or he mean to you? And with me, it's a little bit different. With me is, no, your teachers went to grad school to teach you. They're not your kindergarten or a babysitter. And please, I don't want your teacher to spend or waste time sending me messages or calling me saying your boys are playing around. Look, we're past that. You're gonna stay focused. You're gonna do your homework. You're gonna learn. And like Ms. Fraga and Mr. Crook said, I stay informed. I learned Schoology too late. I should have learned Schoology about 5 years ago when one of my boys started middle school. You can actually set up alerts on Schoology to send you emails when assignments are due. And my phone, I use my phone for work. So my phone is always working. I get notifications at 12 a.m. That's when the assignment was due. And if the teacher didn't get it, you'll get an email, and you can actually set up your Schoology account to send you a text. So, it's really up to the parent how involved they want to be. And I encourage everybody to sign up with Schoology, create your account, set up your alerts, set up your reminders, and maybe not daily, maybe once a week. Just sit with your children and go over Schoology. You'll see the dates and the grade they got, and you can start asking questions. Why was this not done? And you'll be surprised. The next week and moving on, they'll get on it.
Thank you. All good tips. Mr. Brookins, I would like you to kind of not, from the standpoint of parents, that's a powerful message, but from the principal, the head teacher, the person who's in charge of all of these young people graduating, what tips would you give parents to support their students throughout their time with us?
In addition to everything that Ms. Fraga, Mr. Cook, and Mr. Vasquez have mentioned, it's not uncommon for a ninth grader to struggle at King Drew. There's a strong probability that this environment may be more rigorous than their middle school environment was. Mm-hmm. Right. And so if you go into that knowing that there is some struggle that could happen, and struggle is a good thing. Productive struggle is a good thing. It's not going to be a smooth road in life. It's not designed to be a smooth road at King Drew. Our goal is to challenge you, right? And so my advice to you is, when the struggle happens, don't panic, but support. Talk to your students daily. If you know what's going on, if your kid comes home and tells you they don't have any homework, and then it happens again and again, then they're not telling you the truth, right? So you need to talk to them. You need to be aware of what's going on. If you have any sense that there's a problem, you talk to the teachers. You talk to the school, right? One thing I try to do is be very responsive to the parents, right? And so if you have a problem, my first recommendation is talk to the teacher, and you still need some help, then you email me, right? And so, because we will solve the problems together. And as I mentioned to you, this is school. It's challenging for a reason. The reason why we have 100% graduation rate and 90% of our kids go to college is because we challenge them, right? And so be prepared for the challenge. Be prepared for that. You're going to have to console them. You're going to have to support them. You're going to have to provide them with all kinds of supports, and know that we are providing them with all types of supports. But one thing I want you to know and do frequently is talk to them. Make sure that's a part of your daily occurrence, is find out what's going on. And we have tools in place to do that.
And I think Mr. Crook has a question.
Oh, it was just some final. I don't know if this is allowed in this thing, but I think all incoming ninth grade parents should participate in the PTSA. That is like imperative, just to be a part of that, because all donations, PTSA helps raise funds for the school. I know we send our kids to the top-notch school, but KD is still hurting too for certain things that we as parents can probably get together, brainstorm with some kind of fundraising idea that'll help offset those costs that the district not going to be able to happen. Now moving forward to the new school year, the budget's been slashed because of lack of money that's been able to be allocated. So I just think definitely jumping into the PTSA will be a good thing. And you should be able to see an email in the near future about participation. I think the parents is $20 and students is $15. Money's toward that go to scholarships and ice cream socials, grad night, and things like that to offset the cost of being a high school senior.
Absolutely. And you are our new president, upcoming president for the PTSA. Yeah. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, I was elected PTSA president.
I love it, from all that participation.
Yeah, every time. So yeah, that's what I tell most parents. You got a little extra hour a week, you give it to the school, and it'll pan off in the long run.
And I would completely agree with that. In fact, that is why all of you are here, because you are involved. We know who you are. You are invested in your students and in their success, and it shows. So I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the good advice that you have shared with our upcoming students and their parents. And I am going to open it up to them to be able to ask questions. So when they submit their questions, we are going to share them with you. And we really appreciate all your insight, all your hard work, and especially during this time, your transition to distance learning and still your commitment to your students doing what they need to do and supporting them in that effort. So I thank you. I applaud each of you, including you, Mr. Brookins, because I have your son, who I think is remarkable as well as all the other students. So is there anything else that anyone wants to add before we sign off? Mr. Brookins?
I'd like to add a special thank you to Ms. Fraga, Mr. Crook, and Mr. Vasquez. And, there's a reason why, we asked you, because we feel that you are great for giving our parents an example of some ways to have their students be successful. So thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.